Today on Rewind, a closer look, we're diving into Cop Target, a 1990s action movie that somehow manages to feel like a Miami Vice knockoff, a spy thriller, and a vacation slideshow, all at the same time. This is one of those movies where nothing quite lines up. The plot feels like it was written on napkins, the main character might be the worst bodyguard in cinematic history, and every decision made by every character somehow makes things worse. You've got international crime, kidnappings, shady government types, random shootouts, and a hero who spends most of the movie either leaving the scene or showing up way too late. So the question is this a hidden gem of a low-budget action chaos, or just a complete mess that accidentally became amazing? Let's find out. Right away, oh no, Italian movie filmed in the States. You already know we're in for something special here. The movie opens with our main guy just driving around Miami during the credits, Italian subtitles and all, and these credits go on forever. I mean, this dude is just endlessly cruising in what looks like a complete piece of shit car. We start off with the usual Miami postcard shots, boats, waterfront sunshine, and then it slowly shifts into homeless camps and junkyards. Like, okay, I see what you're going for here. The contrast between wealth and poverty. Very artistic. Does it have anything to do with the actual movie? I'm gonna go ahead and say probably not. Out of nowhere, we hear a woman yelling, and our guy immediately goes full hero mode, drives off the road, smashes through a gate, and pulls right up next to what looks like a classic damsel in distress situation. He jumps out, tries to calm the guy down, but of course, the guy pulls a knife. So our cop flashes his badge, does absolutely nothing, and then hits him with the oldest trick in the book. Hey, what's that? And somehow it works. He kicks the knife away, slams the guy onto the hood of the car, and the woman starts attacking him. In the chaos, the guy escapes and takes off running, and now Farley pulls his gun like he's seriously considering ending this dude right here in the street. Thankfully, he doesn't, and instead turns back to the woman, rips off the wig, searches the purse, finds drugs, and makes the arrest. But then, on the way to the station, things take a interesting turn. The suspect starts pleading, saying people like them won't survive in jail, that nobody was really getting hurt, and basically tells Farley to go after actual criminals instead. And then, completely out of nowhere, Farley just pulls over, unlocks the cuffs, and lets him go. Just like that, which, honestly, kind of surprising. Not exactly what I expected from a movie like this, but hey, unexpectedly progressive for 1990. Back at the police station, we finally learn our hero's name, Farley Wood, played by Robert Ginty. And apparently the chief is already looking for him. So you're thinking he's about to get chewed out for literally everything we just saw, but nope. Instead, Farley gets called into the office and handed a mission. He's being sent to the island of St. Cristobal, where a year ago an American diplomat was murdered while investigating drug dealers. Now the local government is holding a tribute ceremony, and Farley's job is to escort the diplomat's wife and daughter to the island. That's it. That's the mission. Babysitting duty. And Farley is not impressed. The chief hands him plane tickets, some spending cash, tells him not to screw it up, and then drops the classic line,
"Who knows, Farley? This job may be more important than you think."
Uh-huh, sure it is. Because when I think high-level international security detail, I definitely think random Miami cop. Like, why wouldn't the local government handle this themselves? Why fly this guy in? Ugh, whatever, we're just going with it. Farley even asks why he was picked, and the chief basically says, because I can't spare anyone else. Well, that's an absolute confidence booster right there. And just as Farley's about to leave, the chief suddenly remembers, oh yeah, probably should give you the address of the woman you were escorting. You know, minor detail. Would have been nice to include that with the plane tickets, but what do I know? Farley clearly doesn't want to go, and the chief hits him with the one last gem.
Who knows, Farley? Maybe you'll get lucky with her.
Excuse me? With the widow? You're sending him to escort a woman to a ceremony for her dead husband, and that's the angle we're going with? Alright, good talk. So Farley heads home to pack, and this is where things get weird. We find out he has a cat, which already feels like it came out of nowhere, but then he sets it down in front of this massive machine, and I mean massive. It's got lights, noises, buttons, the whole deal. At first you're like, what is this thing? And then it kicks on, starts blinking and whirring, and yeah, it's a high-tech cat feeder. Why is this in this movie? If this is the kind of tech this guy has just to feed his cat, I cannot wait to see what kind of gadgets he's bringing on this mission, which I'm guessing is going to be absolutely none. Farley takes a long drive over to this fancy building to pick up Mrs. Trent, the widow of the murdered diplomat. And right away, things are off to a great start. He asks the doorman for her, the guy calls upstairs, and then tells Farley, yeah, she'll see you in about 30 minutes. So Farley does what any professional would do. He gets annoyed and tries to go for a smoke. Except he's out. He asks the doorman where he could go buy cigarettes, hands him the empty pack to throw out, and the guy just stares at him like, that's not my job description. Honestly, fair. So now we cut to the convenience store, because of course we do. Plot running a little thin? No problem. Just have your main character go run some chores. That'll fill the runtime. But suddenly, the place gets held up by 3 armed robbers. They grab a hostage, guns out, yelling at the cashier, and Farley just casually watches. He's slowly inching closer like he's browsing the snacks. One of the robbers has a gun up to the cashier's head, and that's when Farley decides he's seen enough. He pulls his gun and just drops the guy. No warning, no hesitation, we're off to the races. Everything explodes into chaos, customers screaming, the other robbers panic and bolt, and Farley chases them outside, where one tries to escape on a motorcycle. But Farley just shoots the rear tire like it's nothing. The guy gives up immediately, puts his hands up, and Farley just walks over and punches him in the face anyway, just for good measure. A patrol car shows up, the cops already know Farley, and he hands the guy off like he's wrapping up a side quest. Tells him to cuff him. Oh, and by the way, he can't stick around because he's on
special assignment for Sturgis.
yeah, he's absolutely going to milk that for the rest of this movie. So he heads back to the fancy building, and now Mrs. Trent and her daughter are just standing outside waiting, and immediately start giving him attitude. Great start to this working relationship. The bags get tossed into Farley's absolute junker of a car, while they ride in a limo. She tells him to follow them to the airport, which kind of defeats the purpose of him escorting him, but okay. They pull out, we cut to the plane taking off, and then immediately cut to the island airport. That's it. No flight, no interaction, no bonding, no setup. You've got a perfect opportunity here to build some character dynamics, and the movie just skips it entirely. Incredible. When they land on the island, they're met by a government liaison outside the terminal, who welcomes them and gives them the quick rundown. The ceremony's in a few days, and everything has been arranged by General Granger. Accommodations, transportation, the whole deal. So they get shuffled into a car and driven off to their hotel like a VIP. Up in the room, Farley does a quick sweep, declares it's secure, and immediately gets treated like staff. Mrs. Trent tells him to order room service. He shuts that down fast. I'm not your butler. And honestly, fair. But again, this is all the stuff that probably should have happened on the plane. You know, basic character setup. Instead, we're doing it now. They start bickering a bit, and then, out of nowhere, Farley brings up that he has a cat. Why? No idea. But the second he says it, the kid lights up and immediately asks her mom why she can't have one. Classic move. Her mom hits her with the "we travel too much" excuse, and Farley jumps in like, "Same here, but I've got this machine." Oh no, not the machine again. This thing better become a main character at some point. Mrs. Trent basically brushes it off, tells him good for you, and asks him to leave. She heads out, and Farley sticks around just long enough to really sell the kid on how awesome cats are. So yeah, he absolutely just created a lifelong problem for her mom. But hey, at least he's bonding with someone. Back in his own room, Farley gets a call from the chief, and he's already over it, complaining about Miss Trent, saying he wants to come home. He is not into this assignment, and the chief barely even listens, just shuts it down and hangs up. End of conversation. Downstairs in the hotel casino, Mrs. Trent, at least I think it's Mrs. Trent. Her hair is completely different now, so I'm already second guessing everything. She's at the roulette table, winning big, having a great time, and then this shady guy in sunglasses slides up beside her, tells her she's very lucky, watches her win again, and then just walks away. No follow-up, no tension. Oh, okay. Then we cut to the next morning. Mrs. Trent and her daughter are having breakfast by the pool, and now I'm like, wait a second, was that actually her in the casino? Was that last night? Or was that just some random woman who kind of looks like her, and that this movie's already playing games. Anyway, they finish breakfast, head down to the beach, and settle into some lounge chairs. The kid goes swimming in the ocean, completely unsupervised, while Mrs. Trent is basically half asleep in her chair. And where's Farley? Oh, he's at the bar trying to order a Coke. So yeah, top tier security detail here. Absolutely locked in. And then, just like clockwork, things go sideways. A few small boats start heading towards shore, and wouldn't you know it, Sunglasses Guy from the casino is one of them. The boats pull up, armed guys jump out, grenades start flying, guns blazing, full-on beach assault. Hotel security runs out and returns fire, and suddenly we've got a full-scale war breaking out in the middle of this resort. Mrs. Trent and her daughter are stuck right in the middle of it, the kids screaming, chaos everywhere, and Farley finally joins the fight. He takes down a goon or two, but it's too late. A couple of attackers grab the girl, drag her to a helicopter, and just like that, she's gone. Farley tries to stop them, gets into a shootout, even gets hit, but there are too many of them. The helicopter takes off, the boats pull away, and it's over. Mrs. Trent runs over and immediately starts yelling at Farley, and honestly, she's not wrong. This was literally his one job. The local police show up, and the chief introduces himself.
I am the chief of police here in San Cristobal.
No se preocupen, Speedy González se los trae.
Says they'll handle getting her daughter back, then casually points out that Farley's been shot, and Farley just shrugs it off.
Now stand aside, worthy adversary. 'Tis but a scratch.
The chief also reminds him that he has zero authority here, and Farley fires back with, "Looks like you don't either," which, bold move considering this is the first time you meet the local authorities. At the station, the chief questions both of them, and neither has anything useful. Farley, our elite protection specialist, has absolutely no idea who did this. I know, shocking. The chief straight up tells him he failed his only job, and I really hope every single character in this movie keeps reminding him of that. On the way back, Mrs. Trent suddenly remembers something. One of the kidnappers was wearing sunglasses, the same sunglasses she saw on a man at the casino. Haha! Breakthrough, and the cops are like, yeah, a lot of people wear sunglasses. That's not exactly a lead, and just like that, we're back to square one. Later, back at the hotel, Mrs. Trent gets a call from Granger, who checks in, reassuring her everything will be fine, and very importantly, tells her not to cancel the ceremony. Priorities. There's a knock at the door, and in true "please kidnap me again" fashion, she just opens it without even checking. Luckily, it's just Farley, who barges in and immediately starts arguing with her again. She wants the local police to handle it. He's not backing down. Says something doesn't add up. Kidnappings like this take planning, money, and he starts hinting that maybe she knows more than she's letting on. Then he just leaves. Again. Farley heads down to the beach, feeling sorry for himself, having a full-on pity party, when he casually finds a gun in the sand, just sitting there. Well, okay. So he picks it up, heads back to his room, and instead of doing anything useful, he orders room service. Sits down and starts cleaning the gun using napkins and salad oil. I'm sorry, did he order food just to get guns cleaning supplies? Because if so, that's actually kind of clever. Meanwhile, downstairs in the restaurant, Mrs. Trent is having a drink, and Farley is watching her from across the room. Not protecting her, just kind of observing. A guy in a suit walks up and introduces himself. It's General Granger. And Farley doesn't even react, doesn't intervene, doesn't check who he is, just lets it happen. This might be the worst bodyguard in movie history. He eventually asks a waiter who the guy is. Like that's gonna help. Then just wanders off to use a phone. From the conversation, we learned Granger was friends with her husband, who's investigating drug runners before he was killed. He reassures her, says the embassy is behind her. And right on cue, armed goons storm the restaurant. They rush the table, start yelling at her, and of course, Farley's nowhere to be found. He strolls back in just in time to see what's happening. He immediately pulls his gun out, drops one of them, then another. It's so quick, it's like the script just said, action happens here. He chases a guy outside, finds nothing, and then casually comes back in to check on Mrs. Trent, like he didn't just miss the entire setup. Back up in a room, the police chief and his lieutenant are questioning Mrs. Trent. And now suddenly, they've got a photo of the shady sunglasses guy. Wait, Didn't they just say identifying someone by sunglasses was basically impossible? And now they've got a full headshot ready to go? Okay, sure. Turns out they know exactly who he is. He's one of the drug guys her husband was investigating. So naturally, Mrs. Trent asked the obvious question.
Well, if you know all this, then why don't you arrest him and get my daughter back?
And the chief's answer, we were going to, but Farley interfered. Excuse me? How? And she asked the exact same thing. And the chief claims they were planning to follow the attackers from the restaurant back to their base. But Farley ruined it by shooting them, which doesn't really track. One of them clearly got away, so either this guy is lying, the writers forgot, or I've completely lost track at this point. Honestly, all three feel possible. The chief then tells her to basically tell Farley to get lost. They'll handle things from here, and then immediately leaves. So once again, we've got another guy saying, I'll protect you, and then walking out the door. Strong theme in this movie. Downstairs, Farley is casually eating breakfast when Mrs. Trent shows up and sits at a completely different table. He walks over, tells her he'll be in the lobby if she needs anything, and then immediately leaves her alone again. This man is unbelievably bad at his job. Except, this time it's actually on purpose. Because instead of going to the lobby, Farley heads upstairs, sneaks into the hallway, steals a master key from a maid, and breaks into Mrs. Trent's room. I gotta admit, for once this actually makes sense. He plants a bug in one of the phones, and just as he's doing that, Mrs. Trent suddenly gets up from her breakfast and heads back to the room. Perfect timing. But here's the twist. When Farley's taking apart another phone, he finds there's already a bug inside. Someone else is listening in too. Now that's interesting. He barely gets it back together before she walks in, and right on cue, the phone rings. Of course it does. Farley hides in the room, picks up another phone to listen in. Pretty sure that's phone number 3 at this point. How many phones are in this hotel room? And we finally get the ransom call. The voice demands $12 million. Mrs. Trent says she doesn't have that kind of money. The voice doesn't believe her, and then we see it's Sunglasses Guy. He tells her to keep the cops and the American out of it, lets her briefly speak to her daughter as proof of life, and says she'll receive further instructions on a cassette tape. Then he hangs up. Mrs. Trent is understandably shaken, and Farley's response? Does he try to console her? Does he try to help her, calm her down? No, he just leaves again. Over at the embassy, Granger is getting an update. Apparently in Venezuela, they actually caught the drug dealer responsible for killing Mrs. Trent's husband, but then he escaped and vanished. So Granger immediately connects the dots. Maybe that guy is the one who kidnapped her daughter. You think? Meanwhile, this also tells us the local police and the Americans are clearly not sharing information, which is always a great sign. Granger heads into his office, calls the ambassador, and now things are starting to get a little more interesting. We learn that Mrs. Trent's husband might not have been the hero everyone thinks he was. There's talk of shady dealings, missing money, and most importantly, the need for the ceremony to go on. No scandal, no questions. As far as the world is concerned, this guy is a hero. End of story. Back at the hotel, Mrs. Trent is sitting poolside, clearly stressed out. And where is Farley? Oh, he's across the pool at the bar. 'Cause of course he is. This guy is unbelievably bad at his job. Mrs. Trent gets up, walks over, drops her robe, and dives into the pool. And suddenly, Farley is very interested. And now he gets up, walks over, and just stands there watching her. Man, I'm really starting to hate this guy. While she's swimming, a waiter drops off a drink and a magazine at her table. And Farley, being the world's most inconsistent bodyguard, walks over and lifts the magazine, revealing the cassette tape the kidnappers mentioned. Mrs. Trent comes back, sees the tape, casually covers it back up like nothing happened. Smooth. Farley asks if she's heard from the kidnappers, and she straight up lies to his face. He tries to play nice.
You and I, we don't like each other very much. But for your daughter's sake, I think maybe we better work together.
I don't happen to agree with you.
You want your daughter back or not?
It's your fault that my daughter was kidnapped. Why don't you let the local authorities handle it from here on?
These two are absolutely going to make out before this movie ends. She tells him to get lost. It's his fault her daughter was taken, and honestly, still not wrong. Farley shrugs it off, starts to leave, and then hits her with the "enjoy your magazine," just to let her know he knows. And then, like always, he leaves. Mrs. Trent heads back to her room to listen to the tape, pulls out a cassette player from somewhere, don't ask, and presses play. The message reveals that her husband was dirty, that he stole money from these guys, and she just refuses to believe it. Down in the lobby, Farley is leaning against the front desk, doing absolutely nothing. When the phone rings, it's Mrs. Trent asking for a taxi. And of course, Farley overhears it, immediately asks for a car of his own so he can follow her. The clerk gives him some keys, and then he heads down to the parking garage. As he's looking for the car, someone starts shooting at him. The shots miss, of course, but Farley's pinned down behind a column while bullets are flying. Meanwhile, upstairs, Mrs. Trent's taxi arrives, she gets in, and drives off. Because once again, Farley is not where he's supposed to be. Down in the parking garage, Farley's on the move, ducking behind cars, getting shot at a couple more times, but eventually making it to his vehicle. The shooter bails on foot, jumps into a waiting car, and now we've got the movie's first car chase. And honestly, it's something. We get a car flip, a ton of reaction shots, starts as the destruction of a single fruit stand, which isn't even really a stand, it's more like a table with some fruit on it. But then it escalates. Suddenly they're tearing through what looks like an entire fruit market. I take it back. They're committed. Eventually the shooter's car spins out on a bunch of fruit, because of course it does, and rolls into a ditch. Here's where it gets a little concerning, because it really looks like the guy is hanging halfway out the window while the car is flipping. And man, I'm hoping that's a dummy, because if not, that stunt went very wrong. Farley pulls up, grabs the guy before he can escape, and immediately punches him in the face, just to set the tone. Then he starts questioning him. The guy's shoulder is apparently dislocated. He's begging to be let go, and Farley's response is basically, yeah, no, and starts cranking on it for extra motivation, asking who sent him, getting nothing. And then the guy tries to flip it, says Farley killed his friend on the beach, and Farley's just like, what? No, you tried to kill me. He pulls out his gun and starts counting down from 5 like he's disciplining a toddler. And of course, it works. The guy gives him something. What exactly, I have no idea. I can't understand what he said. But it's enough for Farley to move on. And while all that's happening, Mrs. Trent has arrived at the bank. She tells the taxi driver to wait outside and heads in alone. As Mrs. Trent walks into the bank, we see hiding behind a newspaper, the police chief. And I mean hiding. This guy should have cut eye holes into the paper like a cartoon character. Inside, Mrs. Trent meets with the bank manager, who is already loading stacks of cash into a bag. And he casually explains that her husband told him, before he died, to always keep this money ready, just in case. And someone had actually called on her behalf, so all the paperwork is done. Called on her behalf? Oh boy, let me guess, the dead husband might not be so dead after all. She takes the money, heads back out, gets into the taxi, and leaves, while the police chief just sits there watching the whole thing go down, like he's in on it. Which, yeah, he probably is. Back at the hotel, Farley rushes up to Mrs. Trent's room, banging on the door, and somehow she's already back. What? When did that happen? That might be the fastest round trip in the movie history. She refuses to let him in, so Farley does the logical thing and just kicks the door open. She threatens to call the police. He doesn't care, and he finally lays it all out. Her husband wasn't a hero. He was skimming money from the drug dealers instead of turning it in, and now these same people want it back. That's why her daughter was taken. Farley says he's done. He's going to go file a report with Miami and wash his hands of the whole thing. And then, out of nowhere, Mrs. Trent has a complete 360 moment.
What is this, Splendid? First you're my friend. Now you turn a 360 on me.
180, you stupid spaghetti slurping cretin. 180. If I did a 360, I'd go completely around and end up back where I started.
What?
Trust me.
She walks over, tells him not to leave, and then just starts making out with him. I mean, we all knew it was coming eventually, but this is where it happens? Right after all that? It's awkward, it's weird, and it feels completely out of nowhere. Cut to outside, Granger meets with the police chief, and now it's confirmed. They're working together. Everything is going according to plan, which means, yeah, they're absolutely involved in this kidnapping somehow. Later that night, after Farley and Miss Trent hook up, he gets up, writes her a note, and of course, leaves again. The note basically says just to do what the kidnappers say. And this guy's unbelievable. The next morning, Miss Trent heads down to the front desk to get keys to a little blue Hyundai, and we see the police chief's lieutenant on the phone giving updates. He tells the chief she's leaving in a blue car, and then somehow gives him the license plate number? How? How would he know that? The desk clerk didn't say it. Nobody said it. He just has it. Sure, why not? Out on the road, Miss Trent drives the little blue Hyundai out of the city to this big plantation out in the middle of nowhere. And waiting there for her is Farley.
You serious?
What? Why? How? Why? When did he get there? If he knew this was the drop location, why didn't he just stay with her and go together? Oh, what is happening? At this point, I'm seriously starting to wonder if Farley is actually the kidnapper, because that would explain a lot about how bad he is at his job. Mrs. Trent gets out with the cash and starts walking. A few cars rolled in, armed goons step out, and they bring the daughter with them. Sunglasses guy wants the money first, makes her drop the bag, checks it, and once it's confirmed, they hand the kid back. Exchange complete, everyone just starts walking away. But nope, Farley up on the water tower watching all this go down, and the second a helicopter flies in, piloted by the police chief by the way, Farley just opens fire. Full chaos, goons dropping everywhere, sunglasses guy grabs the money and runs. Farley chases him into a building, more shootouts, more bodies, and then the police chief lands, grabs a machine gun and joins in like he's the final boss. The chief catches up to sunglasses guy, kills him, and then, right as Farley shows up to see, he takes the money and runs. Farley eventually makes his way back to Mrs. Trent and her daughter, and she asks the exact question we're all asking. Why the hell did you start shooting? It was over. And Farley's response is basically a shrug, no explanation. Granger shows up, the police chief hands him the cash bag, jumps back into the helicopter and takes off. And for a second it looks like everything is wrapped up, until Granger calmly pulls out a gun and just blows the helicopter out of the sky. So yeah, everyone is dirty, everyone is double-crossing each other. Granger tosses the money in his trunk, closes it, and right on cue, Farley walks up like, "Hey, how did you know where the drop was?" "Buddy, I've been asking that about you this entire time." Granger gives some vague answer. Farley's suspicious, but before anything happens, Mrs. Trent and her daughter walk over. They get in the car with Granger and just leave. No confrontation, nothing. Back at the hotel, Farley gets a call from his chief in Miami, telling him to come home. Farley tries to explain something bigger is going on, and the chief is basically like, "Yeah, we know about Granger. Don't care. Get back here." So Farley does what any professional would do. He pretends the phone cut out and hangs up. That night, it's ceremony time. Farley blends into the crowd while Mrs. Trent rides in with Granger and her daughter in the car behind. And now Mrs. Trent admits she knows the truth about her husband, but doesn't want her daughter to find out. So yeah, at this point, nobody wants the truth to come out. Farley tries to get into the ceremony, gets denied, asks Granger for help, nope, and then just wanders around outside having another pity party.
He was sent here by the Drug Enforcement Agency to fight a no-holds-barred battle against the merchants of death. A battle in which he heroically...
The next day, Granger is dropping Mrs. Trent and her daughter off at the airport. The kid runs off, and of course she runs straight to Farley. Mrs. Trent comes over, surprised he's still there, because, yeah, his whole thing is leaving, and then casually suggests they should get together sometime. Farley's response? Nah. He just says he had to see it through like some kind of old school gentleman, which is hilarious because this guy has spent the entire movie not being where it mattered. Granger heads out to his car, checks the trunk for money, gets in, starts it, and it explodes. Cut to Miami. Farley lands, meets his chief at the airport, and the first thing we hear is, his cat had an ulcer, the machine malfunctioned, but the cat's gonna be okay. So the cat subplot Still more closure than half the actual story. The chief tells Farley he didn't do too bad. What? Okay. Even though he broke every rule, hands him a newspaper saying Granger was assassinated, and the movie just ends. What the hell did I just watch? That was a wild movie. The story's completely all over the place. The logic barely holds together, and Farley, whose entire job was to protect Mrs. Trent and her daughter, spends most of the time doing the exact opposite. And when he is watching them, it's from across the room, usually with a drink in his hand. Motives flip depending on the scene. Half the characters are clearly hiding something, and then there are questions that just never get answered, like who called the bank on her behalf? No idea. Mrs. Trent suddenly hooking up with Farley after hating him the entire movie? Completely insane. And that cat subplot? Why does this guy have a giant sci-fi feeding machine for his cat? What was the point? None of it made sense, and yet I had a great time watching it. This is one of those movies that's absolutely terrible. Terribly entertaining. The kind of movie where you're constantly asking why, but you can't look away. So if you've seen Cop Target, let me know what you thought in the comments, especially if you can explain actually anything that happened in this movie. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'll catch you in the next episode.
Hold up. Hey.
Thank you. You're a real decent guy for a cop. If you're ever lonesome or you need a little bit of company.
Thanks for the thought. Just keep off the blow and keep off the streets, okay? You're getting a run in your stocking. Yeah.
Sturgis, how was the flight for me?
It was great. Now look, this babe's got a real attitude problem. I just as soon get the hell out of here as soon as possible.
Be philosophical and enjoy the sun. It's raining here.
Look, I don't give a shit. I don't like the sun. I don't like this place. I want to get the hell out of here.